619.
This is JP.
This is Dave.
This is Brian.
This is Justin.
Well, hello, and welcome to the 1619 Bearcast.
You can't even say it.
Well, no, the
Because he doesn't live here anymore.
No, when you tell it to play on what is it, Apple Podcasts or something like that, it says getting the 619 Bearcast or something. It says it weird. So I don't know. I'm confused. I'm an old man. But anyway, welcome. Do we do our? Did I say I'm Dave?
No, we did that as with
All right, then I'm not Dave.
It goes without
Well,
saying.
I am Dave.
You are Dave.
You are Dave.
Yeah, just like Justin is Justin and JP is JP and I'm Brian. So there you have it.
Hi, Brian. Oops, nope, not doing that.
Except when I'm not. Then I'm a unicorn.
Don't do that yet.
Anyway, well, hello guys. Good to see you again.
Let's maybe just get into the difficult part. And so we're going to talk about the difficult stuff, and then we're going to kind of like ease out of that.
So this week was one fuck of a week, starting with
everything opening.
Tantrum in chief having a tantrum over Twitter, putting a fact check on two of his tweets.
Right.
What do you guys think about that?
And then, he can't. But the executive order, is that what you're talking about, or
I'm
just
more
in
like,
general?
What do you guys think about Twitter deciding that now is the time to fact check him?
Twitter has been fact checking people in general, but this is a thing where they're like, you know what, we got to put something. But all they're doing, they're not saying this is wrong. They're saying get the facts about mail-in votes, and that's what it was. He said something because, for whatever reason, you can go on down the conspiracy lane as far as you want to. He just said something about not believing in mail-in votes because he thinks that everyone is going to have rampant, I don't know, ballot stuffing, whatever it's called. Yeah.
He's going to spin
and so
it
that's what he said.
For fear.
And all Twitter did was they posted something that said, get the facts about mail-in ballots. That was it. That's all they did.
Well, but they also
hid
his tweet. Like they hid it.
No. That was
on it.
That was
that was the inciting
one.
violence one.
Yes.
Well, The thing of it is too is he mistakenly identified what they did with putting up the fact checking thing as censorship. Censorship would have been deleting his tweet. I don't think it was. I don't feel like it's censorship to fact check some.
Well, not only that, but this is a private company. It's your First Amendment rights don't hold to a private company.
Yeah, it's a public company. It's a public company, isn't it? Publicly traded.
Publicly traded, but
publicly traded, but it's still a private company. It's not owned by the government.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So your First Amendment rights only apply to government. They don't apply to private companies.
But Trump is knowing that his base, or at least the base that he likes to rile up, doesn't really understand the difference of that, or won't pay attention to it. So he's just
they bank on that all the time with the
fire.
Things that he says. Yeah, I mean that's that they.
So here, what occurred to me was, and I used the example when Joey and I were talking about it, because we've been watching Harry Potter movies for the last week, one each day. And I said,
boy, I can't wait to hear this tie-in. This is going to be good.
Are you ready for this? This is the English major at work. It's kind of like in Prisoner of Azkaban, when they introduce the idea of the time turner. And it's great because it makes the story interesting and it totally wraps everything up. And you're like, that is so cool. But then for the rest of the series, you're like, why didn't they use time travel? Why didn't they use time travel? Why didn't they use time travel? Because you introduced it and it's part of the universe now. With Twitter censoring and fact-checking Trump, it's part of the universe now. And when do they use it? When do they not use it? Should they use it on other people, on other government officials, other politicians? Do they?
Apparently
because
they
that to me is like where I am like, I worry, like once you open the box what's next? What happens next?
Well, but then you have the flip side of that too, where you have Zucknuts who doesn't want to censor anything, so you have rampant hate speech that gets reported, except for you. Exactly.
Yeah, except for if you call white people gross.
Exactly.
White
so
men.
you have these people,
White
men, yes.
Well,
so you have people.
Yeah.
I'll finish my thought later, I guess.
No, sorry, Justin.
So you have people posting Confederate flag pictures or anti-gay comments or any number of different, things against people that are actually racist and homophobic and all this stuff. And you report them and they go, oh, it doesn't violate our standards. But yet Brian calls white people gross when he's a white person and they fucking block him. And tell him he's in jail.
Yesterday, I saw in a news group, there was a picture that used a racial slur for Hispanic people, and I reported it. And within 24 hours, I got a notification saying that it didn't violate the terms.
Yeah, exactly.
I just am like, who are these checkers? What is this? It's.
Yeah, I've done it before too.
You know what?
It's frustrating.
They are single white men who are gross. And that's why you offended them, but talking about a racial thing about somebody else doesn't.
I think who Facebook was found. I mean, Facebook started as this guy wanting to put women in categories. It was started by a douchebag for other douchebags. And then it became this other thing. And now we're like, wait, this guy's being a douchebag. That doesn't make sense.
Well, the whole fact of him saying that they're not going to censor these things or whatever is essentially again saying, well, I mean, there could be things that are going on here. We're not going to fact check stuff. We're going to allow false things to be published, and these kind of things. It's like, okay, so your uncle thinks blah blah blah. Well, you know what? It's not as simple as that. This shit affects the elections. It affected the last elections. These Russian bots or whoever, whatever, had an effect on the last election, charging up their base. They have they're saying now, I heard recently, I didn't really follow up on it though, that they're saying that apparently Chinese operatives are working towards getting Biden elected. So, I mean, which I don't think is necessarily right either. And I don't know. The other thing I saw, and I don't know if any of you saw this because I didn't see it. I don't know. I've been avoiding the news to a degree, but they said that apparently YouTube has pulled about 300 of Trump's ads for his reelection from their feed, so they won't be feeding these ads. Right. So I don't know if that's because they contain false truths. I don't know if it's retaliatory on their part based on whatever this toothless bill will do.
Yeah, I didn't really dig into that one either. I just saw the headline talking about it. But I did read the article where they said that they found out that 50% of all the memes and misinformation are actually bots. And that's a huge percentage. I mean, you're talking about half of the information out there is false and put out there by bots.
And Zuckerberg's saying, I'm not going to do anything to stop it. I mean, that's wildly irresponsible.
Right.
But and then again, it's just like how do you pick and choose what goes out into our universe and what has to be censored, because the culture changes so quickly. Like what's acceptable and what's unacceptable, what's truthful and what's sarcasm, what's satire. It's like I immediately saw in my feed at least 7 posts that were completely made up crazy stuff about Mark Zuckerberg, because they were just showing that so
this is
I'm sorry to find truth.
This is a much deeper issue, and this goes back to Section 230 of the Millennial Decency something Act or something, which basically was about ISPs not being responsible for content that's posted to their servers. So if you are an internet service provider and somebody hosts their website through you, and on that website they've got things like, the extreme case that they always love to throw out, child pornography, which is almost never the case. It's always, it's KKK, racist, whatever. the ISP cannot be held responsible for the content that somebody else is uploading to them. So that's what Section 230 is about. And that has also applied to social media, so that the company itself is not held responsible for what people are posting through their platform. And what Trump wants to do is take that away. He wants to take away that protection, saying, no, you are a social media company, and this is very important. And so you can't start doing this censorship and stuff. But the problem with that is, one, that introduces...
backfires on him.
It backfires on him because the company is like, oh, well, we could be sued for having lies and whatever on here, so we're going to pull your account and you're no longer allowed to be on here. Totally backfire against him. But also, I don't think he realizes that this is exactly a First Amendment rights issue because go ahead.
But going back, so I know that section, there's just so many laws, because the whole thing with Tumblr, the whole thing with Tumblr and it cracking down and shutting down and all that stuff had to do with a law that they already passed to allow Craigslist and all of them to end up being responsible for what happens on their website. So I don't understand how that can be an issue, but then this, they don't fall under it for social media. It's weird. But then on top of that, they even snuck in that bill just recently too, where they don't need a warrant to look at anybody's search history or all kinds of stuff. There's so much stuff that they're passing on the sidelines in the middle of this pandemic that are going to affect everybody and are against our rights.
Did anybody watch RuPaul's Drag Race, the most recent season? Because so anybody who is listening and knows when I go, look over there, will listen and they will laugh and they'll be like, oh my God, that's really funny, because that's exactly what the government is doing right now. Look over there. They're moving us away from what the real issues are.
Oh, sure. Half the stuff to me, Trump's whole thing going up against Twitter and all that, that was just all a big stage show.
Smokescreen.
Because he doesn't want you paying attention to the fact that over 100,000 people have died because of COVID, and that a man was basically lynched on the street with an officer's knee against his neck. And it took days and days for anybody to even be brought to justice. And they, not that they have been, but to at least be arrested for that. Not to mention that apparently if you go jogging and you're black and you look like maybe you committed a crime sometime, that two vigilantes can grab their guns and kill you in the street. Yeah. And that takes
at least they
a long time for them to be arrested.
At least they arrested the guy who filmed that too.
Not for months. But that
no, but apparently they didn't arrest anybody for months, but they arrested the guy that was filming it, because I was like, what's the situation where he's riding behind them filming this? You know what I mean? It seemed to be going down as he was filming it. What was the, what was the situation? And apparently it sounds like he was, in on it. He was friends of theirs and in on the whole thing too. So. I mean,
Jason, I've been saying for years that it was smoldering in the back, and this was all going to be happening soon. There was no way. You can't, just like Stonewall, you can only take so much to where. Well, but it's
coming up again, because what was the Ferguson thing all about? I can't remember the fella's name, unfortunately.
Well, this is still all tied. This is all still tied into that, though, Dave, because nobody listens.
Go back as far as Rodney King.
Exactly.
There is a system. There's systemic racism in our country, and that's just true. It's a fact. If you are white, you are treated differently than if you are a person of color. And the more people who cease to admit that is true, the harder this journey is for all of us. You have to start admitting that it's different. It's not the same.
And you have to believe that. You have to feel, or I feel at least, that these people are just getting empowered to come to the surface because of the administration, because of the current administration. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I said, things haven't always, things aren't great. Things aren't perfect. They're never going to be perfect. But at least I felt like things were better. But it was still, everything was bubbling under the surface. And somehow it's been legitimized again by this administration. And they feel it's okay to come to the surface because they're president.
I hear what you're saying, Dave. But honestly, it wasn't any different when Obama was president. Obama, I think, made white people feel more comfortable but it didn't change the situation for black people. Not when it
No.
came to cops.
I agree. It's always been a problem. But the fact that they're willing to come out to the surface, the fact that they show these protests and the guy has the 88 on his sleeve,
What does 88 mean? I saw that. What does 88 mean?
It's a representative white supremacist somehow. It's a symbol of their.
They even showed a cop doing the white supremacy signal to a camera.
Yeah,
I mean, and I don't want to say, I know I'm just another white person saying not all cops are bad people, and that is true. But it's like when you see these people just being pushed to the ground and brutalized, and it's difficult. And I know that context is important. I was just talking to Matt this morning.
But the thing is, it's not just the cops. I mean, you saw that woman in the park calling the cop and acting like he was gonna kill her and her dog, and all he did was ask her to put her dog on a leash. There's multiple instances of that too. So it's not just the police. This is society as a whole, and white people not understanding that they're 76% of the population still, and that 12% of the population is getting pushed down left and right from different aspects of life,
and people
day in and day out.
I think a lot of people in our generation, because we were brought up when we were led to believe as kids that we had this thing called the civil rights movement. And guess what? After the civil rights, we were all equal and everything was cool. And that's not true.
No, it's not.
And you go.
Well, as they say, we can say, well, with the abolition of slavery, everything is cool. No more
and that's
slaves.
Not true either. And it's like you really have to flip that switch. And I know people call it being woke, and even that term is becoming almost kind of cliche. It's like, oh, I'm woke now, so I got it all figured out. And it's like, no, you don't, because it's never going to be your experience. And even if you're gay and you're a minority, it is not the same as being a black person. Don't ever think that it is. That's the first step to starting to maybe understand.
Right. I was going to say we can partially understand it because we have had a similar experience, but nothing.
It's
like,
just not the same.
Like they experience day in, day out. No.
It's every day. It's every day when you get treated poorly, you have to ask yourself, was that because of the color of my skin? And it, I mean, it's fucked up. And I don't know. I as a white person, like I kind of just like try to just step back and shut the fuck up, but kind of at the same time try to be supportive as I can. I was actually
an ally,
I was going to bring this up. I was going to bring this up because a friend of mine recommended this book to me, and I just started doing it a couple of days ago. The book is called Me and White Supremacy: Combat Racism, Change the World, and Become a Good Ancestor. And it's written by a woman named Layla F. Saad. And she started it on Instagram as this 28-day kind of program. And each day you would get like this different thing to sort of challenge the way you looked at yourself as a white person. And you keep a journal while you're doing it. And it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to really make you look at yourself. And I've only done 2 days, so I'm barely getting started. But the first day was just admitting that white supremacy exists, and that it's not, white supremacy isn't the bad people. White supremacy is the systemic racism in the nation. And then you have to look at your own privilege, and then you have to look beyond that. And like in the second day, you look at white fragility. And that to me is something that I've battled with for all my life, is that when someone brings up race or challenges me or gets uncomfortable, I shut down. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to admit it. I don't want to think that that's the way the world is. And you have to get past that, because that is the way.
The reality is that is how the world is.
And when when you refuse to look at it or admit it or talk about it, then you are feeding into the problem, and you are letting down the people that are being affected by it. And
I don't know. It's the face-to-face racism that I just don't understand. Like, how could you look at someone in the eyes and use a racial slur, knowing that, they were born, they're somebody's child, they're living, working, trying to survive just like you are, but you stand and use a racial slur to their face, or directly do something violent against them because of their race.
Yeah.
You know, they
Or
can
you see them-
know. You know, I mean, just on a human level, we're human beings. Be a human fucking being. I just
or you dismiss the criminal element because, well, you know, it's black on black crime and this and that, and you completely dismiss the fact that these are generations of men and women born into poverty. And how many decisions do you have when you're born into that? You know,
right?
Can you pull yourself up by the bootstraps and become fucking president when charter schools and private schools and defunding public education are working against you? Like,
right, or can you get to a certain place financially if you're passed over for a job, whether you know it or not, because of the color of your skin? You know, I mean, I don't know.
Exactly. It's like, and you know, I know we're sitting here. It's not like we have the answers, and like we're trying to. I think my takeaway, and I wrote about this on Facebook today, is that it's important to not shy away from the difficult conversations that you need to have right now. And that even if you don't agree, by having those discussions and kind of trying to respect one another, you're still coming together rather than pushing each other apart by being silent.
Right.
You know, I will say, oh, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, my nephew is almost 30, and I keep thinking that he's only 17. And he and I don't see eye to eye on some things, but we do on others. And the one thing, and we had a really difficult conversation yesterday, but the whole time I felt respected. And the whole time I respected him as well. And we didn't turn each other off, you know? And I would just wish more people could do that. And I know that there's a lot of people that are just like, no, the time for that is over. It's time to light it up. It's time to burn it down. Fuck all of this. And I can't argue against that either, you know? It's not what I'm going to do. But if I was out protesting, because like Matt was out protesting yesterday, if I was out protesting and I saw somebody viciously pushed to the ground for no reason or pepper sprayed for no reason,
or run over by a car,
I don't think I'd be able to stop myself from raging against that.
I don't think I would. I was talking to Mike about that.
And the question is, that makes you feel better, but does that help the problem? You know what I mean? Either. I mean, it's just.
Well, and I was
then I'm just bloody in the street too.
This morning too. There's a difference about an individual person. An individual person is rational, and a group of people are not rational. And as soon as you get together in a group of people, you have mob mentality. Somebody says something, somebody does something, and suddenly that's the idea. That's the best idea to do. And that's when a lot of these problems happen. It's just, you know, it's human psychology. As part of a group, as part of a herd mentality, we tend to flow and do things as others are doing, thinking that someone else is in charge and they know what they're doing. And then it just becomes our idea. And so I think a lot of the damage and a lot of the fires and whatever else that started didn't start by rational people. It started by people who were caught up in the moment in this mob mentality. And if you take them out of it and you take them and say, look at what you did, I'm sure a lot of people will feel regret later. But at that moment, you're not thinking as an individual. You're thinking as part of this mob. And so I want to have a little bit of forgiveness for people, but at the same time, I'm like, burning shit down, I don't think is going to do it.
Well,
but
the other thing too is they're finding out that these people are not part of the original protest groups either. They're white people coming in from other areas to do it, to make it look like these people are doing it.
Yeah.
And they're also just people using it as a crime of opportunity.
Yeah.
So you have to take that.
Go ahead.
So you have to take that into consideration too, that it's not just, you know, the actual protest that started at 3:30 in the afternoon and went until dark was completely peaceful. It wasn't until after dark that people came in and used it as an opportunity to do these things.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's, and again, I understand it. I don't necessarily
condone.
I don't condone it per se, but at the same time, I'm like, you can only be peaceful for so long.
I think a lot of people feel exactly the same way you do. And I think the dangerous thing is when you take this brush and you try to paint it across what's going on and say that everybody feels this way or everybody there is there because of that. It's just not true. There's people there for a multitude of reasons, and people react for a multitude of reasons. And the more you, and that's what Trump is trying to do right now, is blame it all on Antifa, because that's his narrative.
Mhm.
That's what he's selling to his base.
Fun story. The first time I heard the term Antifa, I thought it was soccer league in Brazil.
Sounds like that.
Because it sounds like that. And I'm like, Antifa. Yeah, that sounds good. I play center, so you know.
But what did well, I mean,
it's
the thing
anti-fascism, just so people don't know.
It's anti-fascism, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And it sounds
It
like
is a good
they
thing.
put somebody
Fascists are
put the
good.
level Antifa on it to make it sound evil, make it sound like something that's
Yeah.
bad and you should be avoided.
It's
liberal,
it's a terrorist
you know?
group now, according to Donald Trump.
According to Trump, yeah.
Anti-fascist.
I have a problem too when I see a woman running out of Target with 2 matching lamps. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
That's a conscious thing, right? A white woman, yeah. That's a conscious thing. She's getting those for her front room. I'm like, that's not furthering anything or anyone's cause. And now it's the other question too. So what do you guys make of this thing? And certainly you've seen it in your feed. I've seen it at least a half a dozen times in mine, with that thing that's going around that says, number one, this country was founded on rioting and what do you call it? And looting. I mean, you haven't seen that thing going around?
At the Tea Party, as an example. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Throwing tea into the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was.
But I'm not sure. Are they using that appropriately now? I mean, is that, I don't know.
I think it's more. I think it's more of them trying to relate the white people to what's going on and like why, because the Boston Tea Party is like this celebrated thing that we have in history where they stood up against the government being taxed and all this other stuff, and the Queen and England and all that stuff.
King, yeah.
So and it was a riot. I mean, they destroyed property. So I think what they're trying to do is relate that so that way people understand, why the violence is happening, and that this isn't the first time in our history.
Stonewall.
In the same way that Stonewall was a riot.
Yeah.
It's like
Stonewall.
People get fed up.
They're
They're tired of not being heard. They're tired of being stepped on. And look, say what you will about riots and about looting. It's creating a dialogue. We are talking about it. It is at the forefront of the nation. It put the pandemic in the back seat. That's how big this is.
I think
that's another footnote on this big fucking tub of fuckery is that everybody's running around without a mask on.
Well, and who
knows what's happening.
That's one of the few reasons I'm not out there, is because I'm high risk. I'm not going to put myself out there to get this disease, as much as I want to be out there.
I think that's another reason why people are going.
Okay.
I think that's another reason why people are going so crazy, is because everyone's been bottled up for 2.5 months and staying at home, and now finally like, we're out. We have to do something.
The perfect storm. Yeah.
Nothing's really happening, even though it's a bigger city. Nothing's really happening here in Fort Lauderdale yet. I mean, they're not really doing anything here yet. A lot of stuff's going on in Miami, and I understand that they have. At one point, we're blocking off 95, which is our major highway. And then I saw a picture someone posted that they're doing it in San Diego too. Was it the 805 that they were?
It was the 8 and the 8.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I drove down the 8 this morning. I was out running errands. I almost forgot about the podcast. Sorry, guys. But when I drove down the 8, there was giant graffiti on the wall of the freeway that said "I can't breathe."
Really?
And that was the first thing I saw when I got onto the freeway this morning. And so it was. Yeah. It's
I've been checking with the Black Lives San Diego on Facebook to see if they were organizing any kind of march, and they aren't. They are doing one thing, and it's interesting. They're having an online sort of sit-in. And they've actually asked that like kind of white people don't participate. They said this is like an opportunity for Black people to heal and to hear one another. And they're like, if you're white and you really want to be in on it, that's fine. Just don't touch the comments and don't touch the likes. Just kind of let us have this. And I was like, I'm cool. I'm just gonna stay the fuck away. But I was looking for if there was a march, and because I want to go, I want to be out there. And then I think like that's really dumb, Brian, because you have a compromised immune system and there's a fucking pandemic out there. And
like I said, there was something going on there. Like, where did it stem from? I mean, what do you guys know about that?
In La Mesa,
I don't know.
I don't know who organized the gathering, but I think it was a few thousand people, and it started by the La Mesa City Hall or like around there, and they marched and they blocked the freeway, and then and as it turns, then it kind of went south, and they torched some cars. Now, I had read that the reason it got violent was because whatever it's called, tear gas was fired into the crowd when they were being peaceful. Because I think they were trying to get them to disperse, probably. But once they fired the tear gas, then things went sideways.
There was a problem with the La Mesa cop recently. Is that why it started there?
Yes.
Wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a trolley stop.
Yeah. That was questionable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I watched some of that video, and the guy was just like, this guy, they're like, keep pushing him down and push him to sit down. And then finally the guy goes, this is just about me being black, isn't it? Is that what it is? It's like, is that why this is going on? Because, and it's weird. So it's weird with videos because, and I don't know what happened on that trolley stop, and I'm going to kind of slide over to something else I saw that it's concerning me because it stokes the flames as well. There's a video of people who are on the porch of their house, and they're being shot by riot police with those kind of like beanbag guns.
Rubber bullets.
And the video shows only them being shot. And so the narrative there is that the National Guard is shooting people on their front porch. Mm-hmm. What they don't show in the longer video is that the National Guard spoke to these people 8 different times or yelled to them from the street, get inside, get inside. Get the fuck inside. Get the fuck inside your house.
So they're protecting them. They're trying to protect them from their own decisions. I don't know about protecting.
But
they were trying to protect them from their own bad decisions.
So
they're trying to get them out of the harm's way.
Right. Well,
they're sitting on their
because there's
porch.
a curfew going on. Exactly, Justin. And that was my thing, because I reached out to a friend of mine who I respect a lot this morning, and I said, so am I a bad person? Because I'm like, why didn't you just go inside? And he goes, it's not about being a bad person. It's about deciding what you think is right. And he kind of, said, because you really shouldn't be getting shot if you're on the porch of your house. And I go, well, you know what my takeaway there is if I'm on the porch of my house and it's curfew, I go the fuck inside. And if I'm a National Guardsman, I don't fucking shoot somebody who's sitting on their porch.
But again, you're on your property. That's where you're supposed to be. Whether or not you're inside your house, you're on your property. You're not.
But if somebody with a gun says, go inside, go the fuck inside, go the fuck inside,
but
and they're
why?
surrounded by 20 or 30 other people. No, you're right. You're right, Justin. I know, and that's
I thought you meant there was imminent danger coming to them. Like
this was an armed
all right, so that's
armed
wrong.
battalion marching down a neighborhood street. It was
okay.
Yeah,
I thought there was some imminent
to find.
Danger coming, and they were saying, "Look, get the fuck into your house."
No.
And that was some way of convincing them to go to safety. But if there was no imminent danger, that's kind of
so. Now that little piece of video of just them getting shot on their porch is what's being added to this sort of like horror reel of all the people being hurt.
Yeah,
and there's no context there, and it's just
context is
important. It's creating more rage.
Oh my god, it's so fun. It's so funny too. You talk about editing and context and stuff like that. Hilarious. My aunt, who's generally sort of on the fence as far as politics goes, I think she would consider herself a Republican, but she's definitely not a Trump endorser or supporter. But so she posted a video of it was an appearance of Joe Biden on The View. And in showing the video, whatever, and it showed him, and he was like really stammering, like a lot, and they were showing a lot of like dead air, like where he wasn't talking, and they just showed the other women sort of like looking at him and like looking around and like nothing happening. And I'm like, this seems fucked up. Like, did he really stammer this badly on the interview or whatever? So I said, I'm going to find this interview. So I went to YouTube and found the actual interview, and the actual interview, he was actually quite articulate. And there was a couple of things he sort of stammered over. And so what this was some sort of super edit of the thing to make him look so incredibly incompetent. And I'm just like, and I try not to get involved, especially when it comes to family and politics. But I just wrote in the comments, I said, you know what? And I posted a link to the actual interview on YouTube. I said, this is a highly edited clip. You really cannot look at this. You know what I mean? Because it's, This isn't at all how it went.
But it suits their narrative.
Exactly.
And so
and that's
their
the problem.
response is probably, well, yeah, but that is something. That is how he is.
In
even
fact,
if that's
she
not.
didn't respond. In fact, I think she might have even deleted it.
Because I try to fact check people too. Like when you see someone post an article that's like 7 years old or something, or something that you know that if you just go on Snopes real quick, you can see that it's not true. Like even that the Memorial Day tweet that Trump apparently had sent out, where he said like really fucked up weird things, which of course is what we're used to. But when I read that, I go, this just sounds even weird for him. And I went and looked at his Twitter account, and he hadn't sent it. And then I saw Snopes back it up and say this is not a tweet from him. And I'm not one to defend Trump because he's the worst thing that's happened to this country, since anything, since Spanish flu. But it's like,
but facts are facts.
Yeah, exactly. Facts are facts. Let's not create more noise.
Yeah.
One thing.
One thing.
To transition out of here, I do want to point out, and there was an article on Forbes, you saw it, Brian, that Biggs posted, and it shows a lot of cops in a lot of cities actually joining in the protest, taking a knee, walking with people, actually coming together with the protesters and saying, no, you know what, this behavior is not right, and we're not all like that. And I think that more than anything is really important for people to see that their community, the cops in their community, are actually on their side. And to react this way peacefully, as opposed to coming out, for a peaceful protest, instead of coming out in riot gear and everything else, coming out and saying, we're there with you. We're there with you. This is unacceptable behavior. So there's Alec Baldwin posted Alec Baldwin posted a video on Instagram today of a cop who was essentially saying, listen, we've got a tough job. It's hard enough as it is. And he goes, these bad cops are making it worse for us and are setting us so far backwards. He's like, you have to know, that not all cops are like this. There certainly are, some that are, but you cannot, assume that every cop is going to be that way. And,
it's
time
like for more.
It's just,
it's time for more of them to come forward.
Exactly.
And because you think, it just occurred to me now, when you think about how divided our country is, why should police officers be any different in that division? For for as many who are supporting this idiot in the office, and his agenda and all of that, there are other logically minded men with souls who aren't that way. So
look at that wrestling coach thing about that. The wrestling coach in Washington State or whatever it was. How about that? Did you guys see that?
But, no.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on. I think we've talked enough about this subject for now.
Yeah, if it's gonna go down, let's just skip it and go back and go up.
Well, it ends well. He got fired from his job. So
okay, good.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the little non-meta thing? Should we do that?
Yeah. Why don't you start, Brian?
Okay, so I challenged my fellow podcasters, vloggers, whatever you want to call us at this point, to do to come up with some non-meta shows that you are currently digging. And for those people who aren't gamers, or what, you might be like, well, what's non-meta? Well, meta is like the expected, what everybody's doing. Like Game of Thrones would be very meta. Because we lost Justin, son of a bitch.
No, he's Justin's back.
Okay, good.
I'm back, but it's at 20%.
Okay,
all right.
So we'll have Justin go first. So basically, talking about shows that you found that maybe don't have a huge audience, but you think are really good and you would like to share. And it doesn't have to be anything that's like right now. It could be from whenever. So Justin, go first.
Okay.
All right. So currently, I'm not really watching anything super crazy that's not super popular. However, before it became popular, I was really into Pose. I love that show. It's been a great
Pose
cultural thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Pose.
Cultural thing of our own history. And it's fun. It's super cool. JP, you're ridiculous. And the other thing that I really liked, it was a show on Netflix as well called Manhunter, which a lot of people haven't heard of or didn't watch, but it's The basically like it's about the FBI and like them beginning psychological profiles on serial killers and like how they kind of came up with it. And
that's on Netflix, right? With Jonathan
Yeah,
Groff?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's supposed to be really
exactly.
good.
Oh, it's super good. I'm really sad because the third season they said isn't going to happen for whatever reason, but the first 2 seasons are amazing. I definitely recommend it. It's a great show. And it is like bits of truth. Obviously, it's a show, but they did actually sit down with like people that were actually doing this, and the video of the killers and stuff. And the guy that was in the Umbrella Academy, the really cute time cop.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, okay. And
What?
He's
You
in
haven't
it.
watched Umbrella Academy?
That's another one, Brian. But yeah, it's but he's in it and he plays a serial killer and he's still super cute even for a serial killer. But anyway,
Justin, have you watched? Have you ever seen the documentary Paris is Burning?
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say because if you dig that, like Paris is Burning,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
You want to know where Drag Race came from? Like it's totally all from Paris is Burning.
Have you guys watched? Have you watched Legendary? That's supposed to be even closer to Paris is Burning, which it just started. I think there's like only 2 episodes out. We were gonna watch it.
What's it on?
Is that the one that's on HBO Max? Because there's a new like ballroom show.
Yes,
it's like a ballroom competition kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to watch that. That looks super sick.
Yeah, we're gonna watch that.
Cool. So that's all I have. And in case I get cut off, my battery's about to die. So I'll say bye now.
Happy anniversary, by the way. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. How many years?
9 years.
Wow.
It's crazy.
You're old, Justin. Jesus. How'd you get so
I know,
old?
right? I know.
Oh, my God.
Oh, Jesus. How about you, JP? What do you got, man?
There were 2. I had to think about this. So one might be popular. It's called Lock and Key, spelled L-O-C-K-E and Key. And it's based off of a comic, like
it's on Netflix,
like Umbrella Academy and everything else, and it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And the comic books are really good, really good. They're well written, they're imaginative. I really, really enjoy them, and I read them a couple years ago. And the first season on Netflix was really good, and it. As they always do, there's a little change here and there, but for the most part, the story follows it, and it's pretty good. It's really fun. Even Mike enjoyed it, so that tells you a lot.
I watched a little bit of that with Joey, and he finished it, but I didn't. I thought it was interesting. It's like about it's about like a family. They move into this house, and there's mysteries and stuff in the house. Yeah,
let me tell you, where you think the show is going to go. And especially the comic, where you think the comic is going to go, it doesn't, and it goes here instead, and then it comes back here, and then it goes over here, and then it goes there, and you're like, whoa! And by the time you're at the end, you're like, oh my god, there's a lot. It's good. It's good. The
What
other
about
one,
you, Dave?
The second one is also. I admit that I am a huge Scooby-Doo fan. I've been a huge Scooby-Doo fan for a very long time.
No.
Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, and that's very important.
Oh, okay.
It's Mystery Incorporated, which was from 2012. That one, amazing. I think I talked about it on the podcast before, but yeah.
You did, because we watched a couple episodes.
Yeah. Oh, did you? Yeah. I love it. It's self-referential and yeah, it's modern, and I mean modern for 2012 and stuff. Highly recommended. They're short episodes. There's a story arc. Everybody has, as a character, has a chance to grow. It's not. Yeah, it's fun.
If you're an old school Scooby-Doo person, Scooby-Doo person, there are gratuitous callbacks throughout. Like you're going to be like, oh, that's that. Oh, that's that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we saw one scene where it was like, the car at the beginning was like the family truckster wagon from Vacation. Like it was that exact car. And then like the guy who gets out is like Clark W. Griswold. And it doesn't mean anything else to the rest of the show. It's just a big old like, hey, you're old. You get this. Isn't this cool? Ha ha.
Yeah. 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 And I love that Matthew Lillard is the one who does the voice of Shaggy, and that in one episode, we meet Shaggy's dad, and it's actually Casey Kasem, just saying a few lines, who did the original Shaggy on the original show. Yeah. It's brilliant. I love it.
I was jazzed to see that the woman voicing Velma is the gal who played Natalie on Facts of Life.
Yes. That's
awesome.
Yeah. I actually got to, I made Joey watch episodes of Facts of Life, so I was like, look, that's Natalie. You know who Natalie is.
Oh no.
Oh God.
That's hilarious.
How about you, Mr. Dave? Do you got any?
I had two. One that we actually just started watching. It's on Apple TV Plus. Well, I shouldn't say we just started it. We're like 6 episodes in or something like that. That's actually turning out to be pretty good. It's called Defending Jacob. And I don't remember seeing it advertised very much or anything like that for Apple TV, but to speak to tell you about the two lead characters in a way that you can relate to, at least, Brian, is the father is Captain America and the mother is Mary Crawley.
Who?
So those two actresses, the actors and the actor and the actress. The what's his name? The one that played Captain America.
Chris
Evans.
Chris Evans, and then the mother is the one who plays the mother with the American accent is the one who played Mary in Downton Abbey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's about a family who lives outside of Boston in Newton, and their son gets accused. The father is the district attorney for that county. And their son gets accused of murdering one of his schoolmates, and so obviously the father is taken off of the case because he's too close to it and blah blah blah, and he actually ends up getting sort of suspended from the DA's office, and then the whole thing is just developing. So the father takes it on himself to to investigate it and to figure it out, and it's coming together really interestingly. But I don't think a lot of people heard of that. And like I said, it's on Apple TV Plus. The other one is a show that we absolutely adored from, I think it started in 2017 and they had 2 seasons. It was on Starz and now it's available on Amazon Prime. It's called Counterpart. Has anybody seen Counterpart?
No.
J.K. Simmons is the lead, the one who played Vern from whatever. And actually, J.K. Simmons is in Defending Jacob too. He's one of the he's Chris what's his name's father.
Side note, what was that movie that he was in where the guy's playing drums in the jazz band?
I never saw that, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Whiplash.
That movie's badass. If you have a chance,
that movie is intense.
Amazing. J.K. Simmons in that. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks a little too intense. He did, didn't he? It seems a little too intense. That's why I never watched it.
It's very intense.
But Counterpart is such a incredibly well done show, and he's the lead. And he's working in an office that seems in Berlin, and he's an American, and it seems like it's some sort of intelligence office. And he doesn't really know what he's doing, but he knows it's spy stuff. And he's like a low level, like basic guy. And they show him going through his grind, and he's done it for like 20 years or something like that. And every day they give him a folder. He goes into this little room, he and a bunch of other people line up in front of these rooms. A thing buzzes. They all open up. They walk. They sit into the door. They sit down at this desk. Somebody comes in the other side, sits down across for them. They say, they have all these folders. So he has to start with something. Nice weather we're having today. And the person says, it looks like it might be rain. So then he finds a folder that says it looks like it might be rain, opens it up and reads something to that. And they're doing that. So he's thinking, all right, it's some kind of espionage thing. And the thing that they reveal pretty quickly, so I don't mind sort of giving it away, is the secret of the show is that where they are is actually the bridge between a mirrored universe of the world. It's mirrored, side by side. They're passing information. This is their portal for passing information between the 2 universes. So in these 2 universes, at some point in time, they don't know exactly when, they split in half. And everything is mirrored. So everything is exactly the same. One of the sides has at some point released a virus on the other side that killed 1/3 of the population. Huh. So to be against the other side, because really they feel like they're competitors. And within the first episode, they bring J.K. Simmons into a room, and they're going to question him. He thinks it's about something about a promotion or something, and they sit him down. And when they sit him down, this person sitting at the table with a sack over their head, and he sits down, waiting, like, what is this? Am I interrogating this person? What am I doing? They take the sack off, and it's him. It's the him from the other side. So,
Ooh.
and it just goes from there, and to the point where, but really, and let me tell you about the level of detail in this show. It's very much like the level of like Back to the Future, where it's Twin Pines Mall, and then it's Lone Pine Mall, and all this other stuff. That the side that had like a third of the people that died, like they're using old-fashioned like flip phone cell phones and old-fashioned CRT computers.
They deserve to die then.
The people who no, it's not even that, but the people who developed the technology for these things may have died during that pandemic that flu that was released in their society.
That's kind of interesting.
They're farther behind on the non side without the dead people. They're using these clear sheets as their phone. It's like a clear like glass sheet as their phone and stuff like that. Like they're so much more advanced.
So we're in the shitty universe right now, aren't we?
Yeah.
There's some really badass one.
But we are exactly. It's a parallel universe is trying to kill us.
I'm going to kidnap the Brian from the other side and take his place.
But it's just incredibly well done. Every episode is like a movie. I was just looking up on my phone before to see where it's actually showing, and
What's
showing.
It called?
It's called
what's the name
Counterpart.
again? Counterpart.
On
And it's on Netflix?
Yeah.
Or Apple TV.
Oh, Netflix. Okay.
Netflix, just 2 seasons of it. No, it's on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime.
Right now.
Okay. That sounds
there's just 2 seasons of it. They didn't do any more after the 2 seasons. It had to be a very expensive show to film because it is extremely detailed. And every episode is almost like a movie, and it's super engrossing. And it's they get to the point where like the two worlds merge, and they show you the portal and stuff, and it's really scary shit, and just really such an intense show, and really well done. It's worth a watch.
Hey guys, I'm gonna cut out because my phone just flashed 10% at me. So
okay.
All right, Justin.
Go.
Okay.
Bye.
Peace out.
Goodbye.
Love you guys.
Seeing you. Happy anniversary.
Bye.
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 He didn't want to hear me.
So.
He didn't want to hear me drag on about my shows. I was like, I'm going to talk for like 20 minutes. I'm going to get the fuck out of here.
But I will say, when I looked up Counterpart to see what thing it's on, streaming services on, it showed like the reviews, and one of them was I think IMDb had 8 out of 10. It had 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like I said, it's just a really well done show. It's worth watching.
I will check that out. Wait, what's it called again?
Counterpart.
Okay, I'm going to write it down. Ready?
COUNTERPART, and is on currently on Amazon Prime, both seasons.
Okay. Because sometimes I forget about the stuff that's on Amazon Prime.
Oh yeah, I've written some of yours down too.
Yeah. And those were the ones that you had?
Those are the 2 that I had. Okay. Yeah.
All right. I have a few. Big surprise since it was my idea. I'm going to have a bunch. The first one is called, it's an older show. It's already done. It's called Difficult People, and it's on Hulu. It's got Julie Klausner, who's a comedian, and Billy Eichner. If you ever have seen episodes of Billy on the Street.
Yeah.
And he was also Timon in the Lion King remake. They're like he's gay and a wannabe actor, what have you, and she's his gal pal, and they're both kind of awful but awesome, and they're in New York, and it's a very New York show, and it's super funny, and there were 3 seasons, and they kind of poke fun at everything and anything, and the jokes are really, really fast and quick. So if you're looking for something to just binge the shit out of, it's a really good one. Another one that I love a bunch.
Wait, what's it called again?
Oh, it's called Difficult People.
Okay.
It's got James Urbaniak in it, who does a voice in Venture Brothers. It's got tons of cameos from all kinds of people. I'm trying to think of her name. Blonde gal from Parks and Rec.
Amy Poehler?
Amy Poehler was involved. It's like an exec producer on it. The other one that I really love, and I never hear anybody talk about it, it's on Amazon Prime, and it's called Catastrophe.
Oh, Catastrophe is great. Oh my
so
God.
good. It's like 3 or 4 seasons. It's got Sharon, her name is Sharon Hugan, I think. And Rob Delaney. They wrote it together.
Rob Delaney, yeah.
And she is a delight. I can't believe she hasn't done anything else yet. Rob Delaney hasn't done. He was in like Deadpool, the second Deadpool movie, in a super small role. He's super gorgeous. He takes his shirt off a lot.
Follow him on Twitter. He's really interesting too. He's very political on Twitter. Yeah,
it's really funny. The whole premise is that this American guy is in like London, meets this British gal. They hit it off. They have super hot sex for like 5 or 6 days, and then they just kind of go their separate ways. Except she ends up being pregnant, and so she calls him back, and he kind of decides, like, well, why don't I just come and work in England with you, and we'll see how this goes. And it's just a delight. The whole cast is great. It's a great show.
The best is when they're living together and whatever, and he's talking about getting drawers or place in the closet or whatever, and she's like, well, there's just no room in the drawers or whatever. He's like, well, wait a minute, like she didn't want his stuff in her drawers. He's like, wait a minute, I put my penis in your mouth, but I can't put my t-shirts in your drawer. Is that's where the line is? I mean, that's
what's so great is that in terms of just examining what real relationships are, it does it so well. You're just like, wow, this is so real. It's so good.
God.
I will also say this is a great time right now to watch the show Atlanta, which is Donald Glover's show, and it's on FX, but it's currently all the episodes are on Hulu, and it's really good. It's just super well done. It's well crafted. It's also like really bizarre and interesting at times. And Donald Glover is kind of well known for being in Community, but he's also Childish Gambino, and the dude, there's like nothing he can't do, and be awesome at. It's a really good show. A deep cut on Hulu is a show called Shrill, and that has A.D. Bryant in it from Saturday Night Live, and it also has John Cameron Mitchell in it, and it's really a great show. It's just like so positive. It's really about like learning to love yourself and like body positivity, but also just smart and funny and interesting, and it's got 2 seasons, and it's really good. There's a show that's already over and done with, and there's 3 seasons of it. It's called Love, and it's on Netflix. It's got the gal from Jillian Jacobs from Community is in it. It's produced by Judd Apatow. So all the people that you would expect from the Apatow universe, like Freaks and Geeks and stuff that he's worked on and Knocked Up and that kind of stuff, they pop up, lots of familiar faces. And it's a great examination of just how a relationship begins and how it flames out and how people connect. There's a really amazing woman named Claudia O'Doherty in there, and she plays this little Australian gal, and she is hilarious. And there's also a really cute bear guy in there too. So there's that. My other one is a show called Afterlife on Netflix. It's Ricky Gervais, and I know he's kind of a polarizing person for people, but if you like The Office or Extras, this is a great show. It's all about a guy whose wife dies of cancer, and he's thinking of committing suicide himself, and the only thing that keeps him from doing it is the fact that their dog walks in right as he's about to kill himself, and he kind of looks at the dog and he realizes like that's the connection he had with his wife, and he can't leave.
Nobody's gonna be there to take care of the dog. Yeah, I haven't started the second season yet, but the first season was fucking fantastic.
It's dark and difficult, but it's very honest.
It's deep too. It's much deeper than like the comedy surface of the show. Like the comedy is just really the surface. Some of the interactions are great, and
I think even, at the heart of it, it really examines loneliness. It examines the need to connect, and that when you're dismissive of people who are different or you look down upon, then you're pushing them farther away and increasing their loneliness and your own as well. And it's good. It's really good.
Yeah, so good.
And then this one's a little bit meta because it's pretty well known at this point. But Insecure on HBO by Issa Rae, man, they're like in their 4th season and they are killing it. So good, fun to watch. Great. So smart. I mean, how often do you laugh out loud when you watch a show these days?
Oh my god!
And she consistently is doing it with that show. I would also say, and this isn't a TV show, but it's really good. The Beastie Boys documentary that's available on Apple right now.
Mike watched that.
It's put together by Spike Jonze, who's been a longtime collaborator of theirs. And it's not what you think it is. It's actually the 2 remaining members of the Beastie Boys on stage filmed with sort of a live audience with kind of this souped up PowerPoint presentation, and they talk about the whole history of the band and their evolution, and then of course the loss of one of the members and how that struck them, and how it basically was the end of the band and everything. But it is really good. It's smart. It's funny. It's all the things that you kind of would expect from the Beastie Boys, and also surprising, like a lot of stuff that I didn't realize about the early parts of their career. It helps you make sense of kind of who they are, who they were, and then really makes you understand what they became. And it's cool. It's very cool.
Yeah.
And that's all my things. I had
Are
a
you
lot
sure?
of fun.
You don't have 20 more?
I know, dude. I have more. I do have more. And I was like, no, Brian, you can't just talk about 15 things. Just like try to like.
Maybe if we do another episode, we'll do it on that one.
Yeah.
Well,
the thing is, everyone that mentioned, I really do love. I didn't just like give you like these are all solid gold, Brian. Like you're going to like this, and if you don't, reassess.
While you were talking, actually, another one came into my head that I've seen recently. Something you said reminded me of the show, and I guess it was on Comedy Central, and I don't know if it isn't. I mean, I don't. When I looked it up, it shows that it's continuing, but I haven't seen any new seasons of it come up. And but it was called The Other Two. Have either of you seen that?
I wanted to watch that because it looked really fun.
Molly Shannon plays the mother. It's essentially like a Justin Bieber type kid who's 13 years old, and he's become this like mega pop star, much like Justin Bieber, at that age, and like is like known around the world and all this other stuff. And they move, and it's about him, and his family. And the other two part comes in where it's his brother and sister who aren't famous people, but like they're both trying to be actors and stuff like that. So they're sort of in the shadow of their much younger brother. Like they're probably in their 20s or something like that. So they're in the shadow of their much younger brother. Their mother's played by Molly Shannon, and she's a delight. And it's just the writing is amazing. The situations they put themselves in and the stuff that goes on, it's just, oh my God, it's a fucking scream. I mean,
and that was on Comedy Central?
It was on Comedy Central, and when I looked it up, it showed that you can watch it for free on comedycentral.com. I mean, I don't know if there's probably an app for that for Apple TV.
It might be on Hulu, though.
It shows Amazon. Oh, might it be? Yeah, because it shows Amazon. It shows Amazon Prime, but it shows a price next to it. So I don't know if it's not available for free on there. And
it's called The Other Two,
funny.
Though. One
of the referential shows is for that actually is Shrill with A.D. Bryant.
Shrill is really neat. It's a good one.
But yeah, it's called
got
The
a cute
Other
guy in it too.
Yeah. Oh, I guess it was only one season, and it shows 2019. It seems like it was longer ago than that. But it's really it's hilarious. So it's worth a watch.
Well, shall we wrap it up since Justin's not with us? And
just over an hour.
Okay.
Oh, well, that sounds good.
You got any tugs, Dave?
Oh, I didn't even think about it. Gosh.
Dave.
I forget. We're not doing this. And it's
I don't have any either.
Since we did this. My partner, my boss for employing me. I don't know.
I feel like I'm the only one who believes in Christmas anymore.
Well, I don't know. I'm not that nobody specific. I mean,
yeah. Well, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of noise in the background right now. I don't know. I am trying to get away from that noise and focus on things. But I'm happy. I'm grateful, and I'm just that's it for me.
Yeah, I've just got two myself really. I'm tugging Joey because he's putting up with my process because I am not easy to live with right now. I get very quiet for long periods of time as I try to like digest what I'm seeing and try to kind of find my truth, like how I feel. And that's not easy. I also want to give a tug, even though he probably won't ever see this, to my nephew, Joshua, because he's becoming quite a man, and I'm very proud of him. And I'm actually wearing his band's t-shirt. They're called Rabbit Assault. If you want to listen to angry, aggressive, shouting people who play music very, very fast while other people skateboard and slam dance, Their lead singer is actually a police officer, but they're super anti-fascist and they're kind of amazing.
I was trying to see what the symbols were. The one looks like the bill from what do you call it, from Schoolhouse Rock.
Can you read what it says? It says
skate fast,
skate
drink
fast,
faster.
Drink faster.
Yeah.
Cute.
Yep. Rabbit assault.
Good logo.
So anyway, that's for Joshua, and those are my tugs. And JP is just going to tug himself tonight.
Hey.
I'm going to tug. I'll tug
tops.
Mike for introducing me to the Eufy robot vacuum.
I noticed you called yours Hazel.
We called it Hazel. We got our first robot vacuum because we have we moved from a house that had white tile floor throughout most of it to a house that has dark wood floor all over it, and with two relatively light fur dogs. I mean, it has been a nightmare to keep up with. And I finally said, you know what, let's get one of these robot vacuums. I saw that Mike had posted about one of them, and that was a non-Roomba. And I said, hey, how do you like that vacuum? And blah, blah, blah. And we went back and forth about it. And I ended up buying the vacuum. And so far it is pretty cool. So I have to tie up some of the wires because it's getting into the wires that control the power recliners under the couch and everything like that. And it's finding itself a little bit of trouble, but I'm totally stoked. And even last night I did something totally lazy. It comes with a remote control, and I was making pizza and I got semolina flour on the floor. So I said, all right, I'm not going to sweep this shit up. I'm going to guide this thing over. And it's kind of like, it's not like Big Track because you're not like programming it where to go, like go left, right, two clicks left or whatever. You're using like a remote control. But I had to come over and clean the floor. And when I went to pull out the little cartridge thing, it was full of the semolina flour. So I picked it up and did a great job. So
what's it called again?
I guess, I don't know how it's pronounced. It's EUPY.
It's Eufy.
UP?
FY. EUFY. UP.
Is it?
It's
FY?
UP.
Yeah, EUFY.
Yeah.
You're right. EUFY. And I have the 30C, which comes with an app that you can program it and schedule it, and it comes with a remote and everything.
Yeah, ours is on a schedule, and it starts, but it starts at like 9 o'clock or 9:30 in the morning on Thursday, and it beeps when it starts, and Mike sits right next to it, and it always scares the crap out of him, even though he's the one who programmed it to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Tie the wires up. Wait, something I was going to say. Oh, Eufy is owned by a company called Anchor, ANKOR, and Anchor makes a lot of really awesome tech gear, like portable battery packs and USB hubs and stuff like that. And Anchor, if I remember correctly, was started by a former Apple employee. So they're good products. Yeah,
I was surprised. I'd never heard of them before, and then when I went in to like register the thing with the app, it's like, what item do you have? And it gave me a whole list of different vacuums and Wi-Fi switches and this and that, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm like, okay, but so far
they make really good stuff. They make good stuff. I'm a big.
We could also tug. Speaking of tugs, we could tug Jason Harvard since it was his birthday yesterday.
Yeah, happy birthday!
Oh, happy birthday, Jason.
Yeah, we made a fun little video for him.
We did. Yes, you sure did. That was the gayest thing I've ever seen. It was really something.
If that's the gayest thing you've ever seen, you haven't seen a lot of gay things.
I've seen a lot of gay things. That's the thing. You should post that to our the Bearcast group so people can see.
I will do that. I'm actually
how fabulous.
What did you do? You had a whole group of people make clips and you edit it together?
Yeah, no, people just posted their individual birthday greetings and stuff. But JP and Mike put a little bit of work into theirs. And I don't even want to give any spoilers because you just have to kind of experience it.
Is it on Facebook? I want to see it. I really got to see it.
No, it's in a hidden group. So I will. I'll post it on my thing. Now that it was all a surprise for Jason, so everybody uploaded them over the past few days, and then Jason and Dave went through them today. So now that Jason's had a chance to see it, I'm going to post it on my wall. But I'll send it to you also.
My cousin's been doing that for the family, like having everybody send her a video to do it, whatever. And it just it makes me crazy every time how many people film with their phone in the upright position, and I'm like, come the fuck on. I'm like, wide way. So,
them into the 21st century.
Yeah.
Makes me nuts.
Well, cool guys. It was great getting to talk to you, and I think we did okay.
I think so too.
We went long.
Hopefully
So,
people agree and they watch this and stuff.
Yeah.
And as always, if you watch this and you have comments or even suggestions about what you'd like us to talk about, we would love to hear them.
And we will talk about them. Unlike the bear thing that we were still supposed to talk about.
Unlike the bear thing that we still
about.
haven't talked about. And I really would like to talk about my obsession with Animal Crossing, because I think it would be fun to talk about. So many people
I'm still obsessed with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I've been playing nonstop, and I still have a long way to go. And it is such an immersive and such a beautiful looking game, and it's great. And it takes twists and turns.
Penis shots. I'm sure the penises take twists and turns. My mom is probably going to text me and go, you guys didn't talk about penis nearly as much this week, and I'm a little disappointed.
You should complain.
Well, she watched the last one and she said like the theme of the episode was definitely penis. And I said,
and I had a great topic that I wanted to talk about. I had a great topic that I wanted to talk about too. I'll leave it with you briefly.
Okay, so we can think about it for next time.
Have you ever, and if you haven't, you will starting now, thought about the number of penises around you?
I will save my answer for next time.
Real
somehow in my mind. Somehow I started this when I was driving a couple of years ago. I was driving. I was doing a part-time gig for Uber and Lyft, and I would be. And for somehow, you get bored in the car and bored in a long drive, and think to myself, and start thinking about things and thinking, oh, well, there's 3 penises in the car right now. You know what I mean? And stuff like that, or and so and every once in a while, if I'm bored and I don't have my thoughts, I'll be like thinking to myself, like we'll be in a restaurant or something, and I'll be like, it's probably 40 penises in this restaurant, you know what I mean? Or stuff like that. So I mean, I
feel like this is something that needs to be discussed.
All right, we'll discuss it next time. But that's food for thought.
And on that note, I'm Brian.
Goodbye, Brian.
And I'm Dave.
I'm JP.
Oh,
you guys are fucking it up every
I know. P. I'm JP.
All right. Goodbye, JP.
Bye, JP. And I'm Dave.
Goodbye, Dave. And goodbye, Justin.
All right, peace
See you
out.
next time.
All right.
Bye.